Hello, I'm Kay Yasugi from Pupperoos, and this is a video about the materials that went into making Egbert, which is the latest puppet that I've made for a group called the Beanies. So let me put Egbert down. I've just done a video about how he was made, but I'm just going to show you some of the materials and sorry in advance for the shaky video. So the base of the egg was made from yoga mat, and this is the yoga mat I used. I bought it from Kmart. Unfortunately, they don't sell this anymore, but I know that Big W, which is another quite large store in Australia, sells something similar, except they have a slightly wavy pattern, but this has a smooth pattern. So it's quite a light foam, and to strengthen inside, I used this rigid riser tube here, so hopefully you can see that. I got that from the hardware store called Bunnings, and this is Holman 4mm riser tube, rigid. You've got to make sure it's the rigid one, and you can get a larger one as well. So I use the 4mm, and I think it's the 19mm as well. The 19mm I used just to cover this part here, and I use that as well. So there's that. I used poly pipe for the rod section here, and the inside of the egg I used pool noodle. So you can see, this is a very long pool noodle, there's a hole in the pool noodle, so the poly pipe was fed through, and that was glued in using this stuff. This is just contact adhesive, and it's called Strong Adhesive Chloroprene Cement. And whenever you use this stuff, you got to make sure that you have gloves on and like well ventilated as well. So that's what I used for all the foam stuff. Other glues that I used was this is called Flexbond. Hopefully you can see that, and it's by Rosco. And I bought this online from a company in Adelaide. I'll put a link to it anyway. So this I used for after I made the egg structure, and that was from a pattern a pattern called Game of Foams, and I'll put a link to that as well. And it's a pattern based on the Game of Thrones egg. So after that, I covered it with strapping tape. So I'll get to the glue in a second. So this was strapping tape that I used. There's two different brands. Elastoplast, it's a little bit more expensive, but I found this one sticks really well to foam. And the other brand that I used was Body Plus Sport strapping tape. And the really important thing about either strapping tape that you use is you make sure it just has like nothing else in it, like no zinc. This one is also latex free. This one I found when it was particularly humid, it started lifting off. So this one is a little bit more reliable, but you do put glue over it, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So I put strapping tape over the egg, and then I covered it with gauze. So I bought, just from the chemist, these gauze swabs, and these were great because they were already cut up into bits. You can also buy a roll of gauze from like Spotlight or fabric stores and cut it up yourself, but I cut these into don't know if you can see that there. I cut them into triangle shapes as well. The triangle shapes are good for curves, and squares for like larger patches. And that is when I used the Flexbond, sort of to do like a paper mache, but like a cloth mache over the egg. And then after that, I painted it just with regular acrylic paints, and the final layer when that was dry was using PVA wood glue. And I've just realized I don't have the spray, but on top of the PVA wood glue I put matte spray as well. It's like a matte sealer or a varnish just on top of the egg. So those are some of the materials. Oh, and I've also used magnets in the egg. So you can see here are Egbert's eyes. On the back here there are some magnets, and I got them from an IKEA knife holder, and if you pull that apart, hopefully they still sell these are so great. They've got all these magnets inside, and they start off a lot longer, and you can actually cut them with pliers or wire cutters, sand them down and use them. And I don't know if you can see very well, but maybe you can see here, I usually put a line on one side of the magnet so I can remember which side is which, plus or minus, positive, negative. And I also used, there's a whole collection of magnets from the inside of computers. So they are very strong and very useful, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. So these are on the inside of the egg as well. So it's a very magnetic egg. And so it's important that there's no electronic devices or credit cards or anything like that put near the egg, but it should make for a really great transitioning to have different features put on. So Eggbert's going to go to sleep now. I'm going to get him to close his eyes, go to sleep, put your hat back on, and oh, you're crooked. There you go. And there he is.